Under the Cherry Tree. Chapter 1: The Arrival of Spring and the Cherry Tree. One day, as the spring breeze gently blew, Sakura, a young girl living in a small town, was playing under an old cherry tree in her garden. This cherry tree was planted when Sakura's grandmother was still a little girl, and it blossomed beautifully every year. This year, once again, the cherry tree was preparing to welcome the new season. "Grandma, why did this cherry tree grow so big?" Sakura asked her grandmother while playing in the garden. Smiling, her grandmother replied, "This cherry tree has been carefully nurtured by many people over the years. Every spring, it shows us wonderful flowers." That evening, Sakura listened to her grandmother's stories under the cherry tree. Long ago, it was said that a tiny spirit lived in this cherry tree. The spirit took care of the tree every day so it would grow big and beautiful. Sakura listened with shining eyes. "Are there really spirits?" she asked. Her grandmother replied, "No one can see them, but when you see this cherry tree blossom so beautifully, it feels like there must be a spirit taking care of it." That night, Sakura went to bed hoping she would meet the cherry tree spirit. From the next day, Sakura started playing under the cherry tree every day, eagerly waiting for the spirit to appear. As spring fully arrived and the cherry blossoms began to bloom one after another, Sakura became even more enchanted by the tree. Spending time under the cherry tree became something special to her. She started treating the tree like a friend. One day, Sakura found a small sprout at the base of the cherry tree. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in the story. Chapter 2: The Secret of the Little Sprout. A small sprout had appeared at the base of the cherry tree. Intrigued by the sprout, Sakura decided to water it every day. The sprout grew day by day and soon began to spread its tiny leaves. "What kind of plant is this sprout?" Sakura asked her grandmother. Smiling gently, her grandmother replied, "It's probably a baby cherry tree. A new life born from this big cherry tree." Sakura felt joy in nurturing the baby cherry tree with her own hands. Every day after school, she would rush to the garden to check on the sprout and give it water. Remembering the story about the cherry tree spirit, Sakura gently talked to the sprout, saying, "Grow big and beautiful, and make this garden even more wonderful with me." One day, while watering the sprout, something magical happened. A gentle breeze blew, and tiny specks of light began to swirl around the sprout. Sakura watched in amazement. Then, a small voice came from within the light. "Thank you, Sakura. Because of you, I am growing strong." Sakura looked around, but no one was there. Only the sprout looked healthier than before. Sakura thought, could this be the voice of the cherry tree spirit? From that moment on, she cared for the sprout even more. Weeks passed, and the sprout grew into a small tree. Sakura watched with anticipation as it grew bigger. By the end of spring, the small tree even had tiny buds on it. Sakura was thrilled that her efforts had borne fruit. Chapter 3: Meeting New Friends. One day at school, Sakura made a new friend named Kenji, who had recently moved to town. Kenji, who also loved nature, particularly plants, quickly became close friends with Sakura. After school, Sakura invited Kenji to her garden. "Come and see the little cherry tree I've been growing," she said excitedly. Kenji, intrigued, followed Sakura to her house. When they entered the garden, Kenji was amazed. "Wow, such a big cherry tree. It's incredible." Sakura smiled and said, "Yes, my grandmother planted it. And this is the little cherry tree I've been growing." Kenji carefully observed the small cherry tree. "It's growing very well. I can tell you've been taking good care of it, Sakura," he said. Sakura, a bit embarrassed, replied, "Thank you." The two played under the cherry tree. Kenji taught Sakura many things about plants. "This cherry tree will grow even bigger if you keep taking care of it with love," he said. Encouraged by his words, Sakura became even more dedicated to caring for the tree. One day, while playing in the garden, it suddenly started raining. They hurried under the cherry tree for shelter. "Rainy days make the cherry tree feel special," Kenji said. Sakura agreed, "Yes, it feels like the tree is protecting us." That night, after the rain stopped, Sakura and Kenji returned to the garden and made a new discovery. Small flowers had started blooming around the cherry tree. The two were deeply moved by the beautiful sight and began to believe in the magic of the cherry tree. Chapter 4: The Miracle of a Rainy Day. On a rainy day, Sakura and Kenji came home from school together. They stood soaked under the cherry tree, sheltering from the rain. "Rain is a blessing for plants," Kenji said. Sakura nodded, "Yes, the cherry tree must be happy." At that moment, Sakura felt something. Standing under the cherry tree, she felt a warm, comforting sensation as if the tree was embracing them. "Kenji, it feels like this tree is protecting us," she said. Kenji admitted he felt the same way. Suddenly, the cherry tree's branches swayed in the gentle breeze, and petals began to fall around them. They both held their breath at the beautiful sight. "Maybe the cherry tree is trying to tell us something," Kenji said. That night, after the rain stopped, Sakura went back to the cherry tree. Tiny specks of light swirled around the tree. Grandma's story about the spirit must be true, Sakura thought. Kenji, witnessing the scene, was also amazed and said, "It's truly magical to see the spirit." The next morning, Sakura and Kenji discovered new life under the cherry tree. Small flowers were blooming, making the area even more beautiful. They were deeply moved by the sight and vowed to continue caring for the cherry tree. Chapter 5: When the Cherry Blossoms Bloom. As spring deepened, the cherry tree was in full bloom. Sakura and Kenji enjoyed a picnic with friends under the cherry tree, eating lunch and watching the petals fall. "Cherry blossoms are really beautiful," said one friend. Sakura replied, "Yes, this cherry tree is special." Kenji added, "I'm so happy to see the tree we grew together become so big." Sakura and Kenji thanked her grandmother. "Thank you for taking care of this cherry tree, Grandma. We'll keep cherishing it," Sakura said. Her grandmother responded, "That's wonderful. Let's continue watching over this tree together, bringing joy to many. When the cherry tree was in full bloom, Sakura and Kenji spent special moments under it. They appreciated the tree and promised never to forget its beauty. As long as this cherry tree is here, we'll always be friends, Kenji said. Sakura smiled. Yes, forever friends. Sakura and Kenji continued making many memories under the cherry tree. Their friendship grew alongside the tree. Each year, as the cherry blossoms bloomed, their memories resurfaced. Time spent under the cherry tree became an irreplaceable treasure for Sakura and Kenji. Each spring, the cherry tree brought new hope and joy. And as a symbol of their friendship, the cherry tree continued to be loved by the townspeople.